My wife went to MIT for engineering and is now a lawyer, and like she's like a scientist lawyer, and I'm like over here trying to think of shit that rhymes with burr.
From New York, Ebro in the morning on Hot 97.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lin-Manuel Miranda just stepped in the building on Ebro in the morning. The beautiful Laura Stiles Rosenberg. Give it up for Lin on the program.
Hello.
He's 2/3 of the what's it called when you win Oscar, Grammy, Emmy?
Oscar,
Grammy, Tony.
Oscar, Grammy, Emmy, Tony.
It's all four.
EGOT, yeah.
So it's EGOT, and you're
I'm 3/4.
You're 3/4.
Almost.
Yeah.
So wait, you're just ego? No.
No, I'm
Everything
actually,
but E.
If you add Pulitzer, I'm Pgt.
Oh my God! Yo, that's not even a thing. You
That's
just
not
added a
even-
P. That's not even a thing.
Yo, that was
Yo, that
super
stunt?
humble brag.
Yo, humble? I don't know. It was humble. I thought it was just
Stunt's
a,
crazy.
Nothing humble about it.
Yeah, he just dropped it down.
I just said that I also have this thing.
So we haven't seen you since the explosion of everything, and we've been fortunate to know you since in the Heights.
Indeed.
Which, by the way, wasn't a small thing. It's not
No,
like you can go back and be like,
That was
hey.
like as good as you can expect. Like we won Best Musical.
Yes.
We made our money back, which is a miracle for any show on Broadway. We ran 3 years. We had a tour, and that was like I thought as good as it gets. And then Hamilton's been this whole other thing. It's just been nuts.
I don't know if anybody's ever asked you. I'm sure they have in many ways, but did you know you were creating this perfect history thing when you started out?
No.
Or did you just say, "Oh, this story's amazing"? Because I've heard you talk about reading his biography, and
I knew the story was compelling if I could dig it out of that book and make it work on stage. And I had to be really ruthless about that in terms of cutting and making sure it all fit in an evening. But I thought, I mean, when I read that book, I felt like the mosquito that hit an artery. Like, I was just like, how is no one... The first thing I did was go online and be like, how's no one done this? Because this dude's life is like a Forrest Gump through American history, because he was on the front lines of everything. And he's a writer, you know? So to me, that was the connection. It was like, this is... Talk about full circle. I'm here to talk about a relief effort song. He was born in Nevis, grew up in St. Croix, and got off the island because he wrote about a hurricane that destroyed the island. And his writing was so good that they used it for relief efforts, and they took up a collection to go help him get his education. So to me, that was like, oh, he's an MC. He writes about his struggle so well that he transcends his struggle. And that was the inspiration behind making it a hip hop show. And I lied to myself for years. I just pretended it was an album. And that's why it's as dense as it is. And that's why people keep coming back, because I wanted to write, I'm not saying it's anywhere close, but I wanted to write something along the lines of Reasonable Doubt, of Ready to Die. Those albums that I still listen to now and hear new things years and decades later. I was writing it as if the audience had the luxury of multiple listens, which is not something I did with Heights. With Heights, I was like, don't worry, you've never been north of 96th Street, you're super taken care of, it's gonna be all right, white people, like, it's gonna be fine, come uptown.
Right.
It was like about making the audience feel comfortable. And I just didn't do that on Hamilton. I was just like, here's a story, let's go. And that ended up being a much stronger choice. And it makes people want to go back because they know they're going to catch new stuff.
well,
the second
going
time.
back to Hamilton is probably the piece you're not going to be able to do.
But you can bump that out.
Right.
Or you
the
can get to
album.
the album, but the show,
Album's
Yeah.
album's
Can't
platinum,
help
right?
you.
I don't think so.
Album's platinum,
Album's
yeah, and the show is and the album's the whole show. You know, it's a sung through
true.
thing, like Jesus Christ Superstar, like
So you got everything.
A
Out of it.
Prince Among Thieves.
Yes.
For you hip hop heads who
Wow.
like a hip hop concept album.
Is that what you? So you're in your mind. You had Prince Paul, like that kind of thought in your head of a character doing an entire album, more so than a musical performance.
Yeah, it was going to be a concept album. It was going to be my hip hop Jesus Christ Superstar. So like Andrew Lloyd Webber writes this rock musical and he uses rockers. Like it's the dude from Deep Purple, like as Jesus and Judas and stuff. And so that was my thinking, was like, I'll make a concept album and get sort of MCs to play different founders.
And you had this art when you came up here. You'd already written some. So this dates back to In the Heights time.
Yeah, this does. I've been writing since 2008.
So here's my question. I think it's important for people watching who admire you now, and you're such a cultural icon. With the audacity of hope that you thought. Right. Shout out to President Obama. The idea,
nothing but respect for my president.
the idea that you thought people would want to hear any album from you. You had never released music that people had heard, and now you put out a musical, and it's like, yeah, the musical's great, but let's be honest, how often we want to hear some musical cats rhyming, right?
Yeah.
It's an incredible audacity. You knew in your head, like, people will really fuck with this. If they hear it, these are bars. I promise, I know and you said it to us. You said to me in Cypher, like, I know this sounds crazy, but it's a rap about Hamilton. Can I just do a little bit real quick?
Yeah, I did it on your show like in 2011 or 12 or
No,
something.
before. It was,
Yeah.
you were still promoting
It
in
was
the Heights.
2010.
Yeah.
Or it's 2010.
Wow.
2010.
So the idea that you knew people would fuck with it, I think that's amazing audacity. I use audacity as a compliment for you to know that it would be that good. How did you have that in you that you believe that?
I think I took a page from Hamilton because I don't think I'm that cocky in real life. But I'm writing this character who every 5 seconds is, you have to listen to me, you have to listen to me.
Right.
So I was sort of, I think he kind of propelled me forward. And that was the fun of it. I mean, the fun of playing it, like I'm a pretty humble dude. Like I'll drop a Pulitzer mention, but I'm a pretty humble dude.
I'll drop a P, but
And but the fun in playing Hamilton is I get to walk in the room and be like, everyone has to listen to what I have to say right now. I'm the smartest person here, and if you can't catch up, just catch up. And that's fun. That's fun to be full ego, full blast, and then like take it off at the end of the night. Like I got to play that part and get to let your id run wild.
When Hamilton starts, if you guys out there are lucky enough to see it,
Or you can just buy it and listen to it.
Or you buy it and listen
Yeah.
to it. When it starts, how old is Alexander Hamilton?
I mean, the opening number covers birth through 18. So that was it was like, can I get the first few chapters in 16 bars? So I mean,
But 18 was where we see him come together with other young people like, yo, we got to change some
absolutely.
shit.
Yeah, and that had resonance for me too because my dad came from Puerto Rico at 18. He didn't speak English. He learned English from watching TV, and he was staying with his aunt who lived near NYU, and she had like little kids. So he'd practice his Spanish with the little kids, so he wouldn't be, his English with the little kids, so he wouldn't be embarrassed. But came here for his education. Came here because he got a full ride to NYU. He'd already graduated college at 18. I mean, my dad is a brilliant dude. And so that was sort of my model of just like coming to New York, just changing the game.
Well, and the reason I bring that up is because we're living in a time right now where we're seeing young people once again activating in many places around the country, and yourself with Puerto Rico and everything that we're seeing now, where people are like, hold the fuck on. This president is an asshole, right? And things have to change. And people believe in the possibilities, just like they believe what this shit could be so much that we're willing to fight and bleed for it. We're living in that moment right now, like a generational shift.
Absolutely. It's been, it's incredible for me when you see dreamers protesting and they've got immigrants we get the job done signs up at rallies. There was an amazing picture from the Women's March it was Carrie Fisher's eyes, and under it, history has its eyes on you. To see your lyrics quoted in these moments where people are in the streets and fighting for justice, that's very humbling to me. That's very moving.
And so appropriate for who Hamilton was, right? Like,
Yeah.
that must make it so satisfying. Like, you honored this man so well, this man that you admire so well, that it made it to people. They're like, I get it. That's what Hamilton's about.
But it also pisses me off so much. That pisses me off. Like that we're living in a time where literally the founders of this country who were immigrants, right, and set this whole thing up, we now have people who have the ability to distort that reality and make people feel unwanted, unwelcome. Like that wasn't a part of who we are.
Of this whole history.
Well, it's interesting. The response in the wake of the hurricane has been this amazing prism with which to view exactly that. I have to tell you, I've never had more faith in the American people than I do right now. Go to my Twitter feed. You're seeing little kids in Ohio breaking their piggy banks. You're seeing school drives from Puerto Rico. You're seeing, please tell us where to send these diapers and supplies, signal boosting from people on the island and connecting them to medical help. The people I've never lost faith in. It's if the government's response were commensurate with the people's will to help and desire to help, we'd be on the road to recovery so much faster. And that's the frustrating thing. The frustrating thing that in the weekend that could have made all the difference, that first weekend after the storm hit, our president was tweeting about NFL players. That was where he didn't get a briefing on Puerto Rico until the Monday after. And there was an amazing article in the Washington Post. They didn't get the full ramifications until after the first weekend. The hurricane landed on Tuesday, Wednesday. So that's a full 5 days. And so, I wrote Almost Like Praying in the first days after the hurricane hit because no one was hearing from their families. The grid is out, the power grid is out, the cell towers are out. And my Facebook and my Twitter are this roll call of towns. Has anyone heard from Vega Alta? Is there any power in San Juan? My grandmother is in Isabela. And that's what inspired the song was, let me name all the towns and make sure they never feel forgotten. And then call every Latino person I know and go, can you get into a studio? And can we record this as quickly as possible so that we can just get money there for supplies, for food, for water as quickly as possible?
So now I want to play the song so everybody can obviously hear it, but I
go
also
buy it too, and
go
go
buy it,
Please,
stream it, download whatever you got to do it. All the proceeds go to
What organization? Okay.
HispanicFederation.org. They were one of the first ones to send first responders in the wake of the hurricane, even before that weekend. And they've been around since 1990, so they're really reputable, not-for-profit. They work really smartly. They work directly with the mayors of the towns in Puerto Rico. So they're getting aid there. They got a lot of troops on the ground and here. And we're also thinking long-term. We're also beginning to talk about housing for people who were displaced in the wake of the hurricane. And so, I worked with them once before when I did a J-Lo single for the victims of the Orlando massacre. And so I have a level of trust with them. It's that's where the money goes. No one's making money off Almost Like Praying. It's going to Puerto Rico.
Let's play it here. Lin-Manuel Miranda is right here on Ebro in the Mornings Hot 97. Lin, so here in New York City, we all have friends, family. Everyone knows somebody who's Puerto Rican, somebody who you love and care about. So it's near and dear to our heart. And I'm sure our listeners in Florida and other parts of America who are tuned in. I want to talk through, because I was pretty aggressive with my language probably too soon while, there was still people trying to find family members. Because I just felt like this is here we go again, Katrina and these other natural disasters where we see, obviously, poor people who have been forced to live in low-lying flood zones who probably don't have, homeowners insurance. They're basically getting purged out of a situation. And Puerto Rico with the debt, and all of these other factors, this is the perfect storm for wealthy people to come in and take that island away from the people who call it home, and it's a part of their cultural legacy. I'm watching that every day. Like I'm watching for the hook. Absolutely. Every single day. Like when's it going to drop? And I'm hearing 1,000 people are leaving the island a day and with no plans of coming back, whether it's because they've lost everything or they're sick. And so talk me through that. Have you been to the island since?
No, I'm going in a couple weeks. I wanted to get this song done. I wanted to get aid and money flowing as quickly as possible, but I'll go in a couple of weeks. That's an important next step. I'm glad you have your eyes on that. We need to have our eyes on that. I think the alarming thing coming out of the first relief package that was proposed was it was in the form of loans. And it's like, do you think someone starving in Utuado has your money? They don't have your money. And we didn't, we need grants. We need debt relief. We need help. These people need help. And so the notion that aid in the form of a loan is not aid. No. It just isn't. And we have to hold our Congress accountable and we have to hold our leaders accountable that when they send help, it's really help. It's not to get Puerto Rico further into debt. So, if I could leave anyone with anything, it's aid in the form of a loan is not a loan. It's not aid. It's not aid. Not in the middle of a humanitarian crisis. So we need to be on our representatives. I had my little tantrum at the president on Twitter. I'm done with that. Next stop, Congress. Like, we really need to hold our leaders accountable and make sure they are helping these 3.5 million American citizens the way we help Florida, the way we help Texas, and anyone on the mainland. It's no different. And so thank you for saying that, because that's important.
You think there's a big disconnect between like being in New York? Do you think Puerto Rico feels a lot closer to us, and throughout maybe America, people are thinking of this as like another country being hit with a storm? I mean, you said you see from tons of people all the time that they care and people want to reach out. But sometimes I hear ignorance about it. I'm like, maybe they don't understand.
They don't even know where it is on the map.
Whereas here,
A lot of people don't.
If you live in New York, it's literally like, it's like New York 2.0. It's part of New York.
Yeah, there are actually more Puerto Ricans and descendants of Puerto Ricans in New York than on the island. That's census fact, I believe. But I don't think so. I think that yes, there is ignorance, because there is this weird sort of no man's land status situation that is ongoing and has always been present. At the same time, what I've been trying to do in my social media is continue to just get everyday reminders of the things we take for granted that Puerto Rico doesn't have right now. I retweeted something from a teacher, and so many responses was like, it never occurred to me they can't have school right now. Like, there's no school in session.
How can there be? Right?
Yeah,
Electricity, food.
Or
I have
businesses can
two cousins
reopen.
from the island who are living with my parents and my family right now, because one of them was supposed to take the MCATs to take their medical school test in September, and there's no MCATs in Puerto Rico right now. And then the other one is studying to be a veterinarian, and she has to come here to continue her studies because there's just nothing happening, and there's not a sense of normalcy yet. So what I've been trying to do with my social media feed is not yell at people, not lecture people, just little reminders like, there's no stoplights in Puerto Rico. Imagine driving through New York City on everyone just being on their best behavior as a driver. That's what it is all across the island right now, still, because they're saying it's months before the power comes back. So if that moves you to give those little specificities that make it real to you, that's what I've been trying to sort of get out into the world.
I think it's really important that we continue the conversation, because like you said, like, businesses are starting to reopen. What businesses? There's no food on the shelves. Yeah. People, because a lot of people is like, how can we spend money? I'm like, but you can't spend money because you can't purchase anything. Yeah. So I
And we've seen total heroes emerge, right? Like, we've seen artists lining up and sending supplies, Pitbull sending his plane, Chef Jose Andres, who I actually spoke to on the phone on the way here, who is on his own dime and with his own chef.
They built a kitchen in the middle of a community.
He's gotten to most of the towns faster than FEMA.
Yeah.
And he's hit every town, and he's doing heroic work. Bethany Frankel, who's turned this into her full-time job, shipping supplies. I mean, millions of supplies to the island.
She's chartered like 4 or 5 planes.
Yeah, and she's
incredible.
Heroes are emerging, and I felt very inspired talking to Jose on the way here, just because there are amazing stories emerging from that, but we still need aid and we still need help, and so my faith is in us. It's in us as you and me and the people listening. That's where my faith lies.
Do you while you are always so eloquent, and I just feel like the conversation around planning for the future needs to also remain a part of it. And I know it's tough to do both for some people. They're like, look, we need aid today. Yep. And where are you in this debt conversation with the $70 billion and the triple exempt bonds, and Wall Street needs their money? And
it's austerity doesn't work. Puerto Ricans don't have your money. It's not their fault. It's not their fault. These are insane tax laws to make Puerto Rico a tax haven that created this debt in the first place. And
is there was a administration before the one that's there now, or I guess maybe 2 administrations ago, that was doing some very corrupt things. Yes.
I think that's all gonna come out in the wash, and history is gonna judge all of those things. I think for now the immediate concern is making sure the aid that comes to Puerto Rico has to be aid. It can't be loans. The answer to this is not further debt. They ain't got your money. They don't have your money. And so we need to help them, and we need to help our fellow citizens get back on our feet. And that's got to be the first priority. And that's an important conversation as Congress prepares this plan.
It's funny thing about life, if you're like in the worst situation, the worst situation possible, and you call your benefit, like the person who's taking care of you, you call your father, basically, you know, and you're like, yo, son, my back's against the wall. I got nothing. Everything's gone. I don't know what to do. And he's like, don't worry. I'm going to loan you some money.
I mean,
That's what it is.
Yeah, put it in those terms,
You're like,
and
wait,
you'll
what?
understand
No,
how
I need you to
insane
just
it
give
is.
me, I need you to just take care of me. That's what.
Yeah, I need to get back on my feet.
But by
just
the
pay
way,
me
there are
back.
people like that. Let's not act like there
Yeah,
aren't
it's called a
family
mob, though. Like that shouldn't be what. I mean, no disrespect, but that shouldn't
I
be.
mean,
what the,
that is what unfortunately the country we live in, though, guys. I mean, while we would, these are capitalists. These are, in some ways, these are vultures. These are people who will take your last for their benefit and leave you stranded. That's the types of people that we're talking about. Donald Trump, guys. He's a piece of shit.
Okay,
There has never been a point in anywhere we've known this guy that he's never been a piece of shit. And his cronies, they're all pieces of shit too.
Yeah.
Like, what are we talking about? And that's why I keep going back and keep having this, you know, I guess awkward, angry tone about it, is because, yo, watch for the hook. These guys are real bad guys.
well, and you have to remember how bad this would have been. Even if we'd had good guys in office, this would have been really bad. So then you add bad guys on top of bad situation, and it's really bad.
And his numbers are reflecting that. Like, I mean, his numbers are really down.
Oh, and you know he loves ratings. Just talk about his ratings.
That's I'm trying to appeal, you know, because yelling doesn't work. No one's. I'm preaching to the choir if I'm insulting Donald Trump, but But you've seen the American people are going, you're handling this badly. These are American citizens. There's such an insane disapproval rating. Like, this is and that's us. That's us holding his feet to the fire and holding him accountable. We had to scream on social media for them to waive the Jones Act, which has taxes on importing. Like, there's boats with ports. You know, amazing reporting from David at CBS saying, look at these supplies in the port. Like, these just need to get to the people, and the Jones Act is preventing it. We have had to jump and scream for every
for
bit.
10
We've
days,
been nickel
too.
and dimed for aid, and for 10 days. And so we need to just continue to do that, because we know what's happening at the top, and we need to just continue to fight.
Let's talk technology before you get out of here, because I'm sure I've seen Elon Musk, I've seen Google. Mark Zuckerberg did some weird 3D thing that I saw where it was
didn't see
like
that.
he did like a virtual 3D thing where he was like walking around Puerto Rico. So it was weird. I didn't really like it because you were looking at Devastation. There was like an animated character.
I think it was an attempt
It
to
was an
show
attempt
people
to show
what
that
was happening.
technology
Yeah.
can show you the
Right.
bad stuff. So it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad in that regard. It was just weird. Have you talked to anybody are you having conversations with people that have the technology to?
I'm having conversations with. First of all, wouldn't I rather be writing songs for a living?
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane that I'm having conversations with Elon Musk. But I asked him. I talked to him yesterday, actually, on the phone, and
So did I. What time you talked to him? I talked to Elon like 3:30. So.
I congratulated him on changing the world in many ways, big and small, and said, "Get the other planets ready so that we can get there as soon as possible."
Yo, congratulations on everything.
I straight up said that because what else do you say? But I also just, for him, it was they did an amazing job. They sent all of their batteries. They diverted it from suppliers who were asking for it in the States and diverted them all to Puerto Rico. And, the solar plan is more long term, but I'm interested in anything that will get the grid back quickly. And we connected him to the Hispanic Federation in terms of hotspots, places that need aid, places that need critical care. And so I connected him with the Hispanic Federation so they could find more places to send those batteries and send help. And that's crazy that me, a songwriter, is doing that, but that's where we're at. That's where we're at.
And that
just
role
where
makes
we're at.
sense, though,
And
as
it's all
connector.
hands on deck.
Right. And as a connector, I think that makes sense for you. I mean, it must be ridiculous. You're like, how much help do you guys need from me? Like, I make music. I don't know if I can fix a country.
But also, in some ways, I'm on the other side. That's fucking bonkers. Like where's the governor? Where are the people who do this?
Yeah.
Why
They just didn't send enough initial folks. And FEMA's used to putting stuff back into place while there's already a system and a grid up, and it's starting from scratch.
And that's the bureaucracy of the bullshit politics, right? That's just like you guys
And just
can't
not
pick
being-
up the phone and call.
And not being prepped enough at the outset. Like, okay, if you know this hurricane's going this way, and again, it's easy to armchair quarterback. I know this is an unprecedented disaster. Take everything I say with a grain of salt, but it's not on the mainland, so you have to be that much more prepared. You have to have the U.S. comfort waiting for the storm to clear and get right over there. Like you need to, because it has much more challenges means you send more help, not we couldn't believe it was surrounded by water. Like that's
Big water, ocean
big water.
water.
It's an ocean. He looks at his fucking right hand man,
ocean
general
water.
dude. He's like, it's a big ocean, right? It's
Oh,
big
it's
water. Never seen
disgusting.
water like
yeah,
this.
so.
Disgusting.
It's that's we're running against the deficit in terms of what landed there initially, and we'll continue to do that.
Can we ask a couple of fun questions unrelated to this before you get out of here?
Oh, I have one too.
Please.
Yeah, a couple just like for example, what music are you listening to right now? You listen to any hip hop these days?
What music am I listening to these days? I heard a Chance song that really lifted my spirits while I was walking my dog this morning. It was I don't even know the
From
name
his
of
album?
It. I will tell you the name of it.
Blessings is a upbeat.
Blessings is incredible. I mean, Blessings was basically on a loop, and I got to see him live while we were living in London, and that was incredible. I want to tell you the name of the song because it really lifted me when I needed it. I am listening to, what was the song? It's called Broad Shoulders.
Ah, yes.
It's a Taylor Bennett with Chance, which that was a gift when I had to wake up this morning to be able to listen to that. He's amazing. I have been... What have I been listening to? I've been listening to a lot of Joel on the loop because I got to. Joel is on the almost like praying.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
So I've been deep diving into his stuff, into his like post Slaughterhouse stuff, which I hadn't really listened to that much.
That Ill Mind project he did is
That Ill Mind
amazing.
project is
Tight.
amazing. I like to think I have a shout out on that. He has one line where he says private invites from playwrights. I'm like, I'm just pretending
That's
me.
got to be.
I'm just pretending
By the way,
that's
the
me.
fact that you are looking for a shout out from Joel is already such a huge shout out to Joel. That's incredible.
He is. I think he's incredible. He has one of my favorite recent lyrics, and it's such a throwaway line. But I like conversational lyrics. You know, Hamilton is a testament to that. He has a lyric. It's from Brick Bodega Chronicles, that first big mixtape, and he goes, "I'm like an obstacle impossible to overcome. I mean, you know, nothing's impossible, but don't be dumb."
Yeah.
That's fucking great. Did you? The Prodigy passed away, and you guys had that Mob Deep. You had the Mob Deep line in it. First of all, does he get paid for that? Does his family?
He does.
They always
he does.
get paid for that, right?
You know, I didn't. Every quote in Hamilton falls under fair use, but I didn't want to do that because I knew there'd be a lot of kids for whom this was their first real exposure to hip hop. So I wanted to have the footnotes, and I wanted to. So yeah, we made deals with Mobb Deep and Biggie's family, and I mean anyone who gets sort of even a half quote, we followed it down and made sure that they. Get a little bit of that, and I'm really glad for that because I'm only 19, but my mind is older. That is such
so
a love letter to Prodigy, and I was lucky that he got to see the show actually before he passed. So that was a real.
Did they do a record too for the mixtape?
Yeah.
They
But
did it, right? I know it didn't make. It's not on it, right?
It's not on it. We didn't have time before it released, but we have the vocals, and we're trying to figure out the best way to do it that will honor his legacy because it's beautiful what he did.
So I want to hear about the night that Pence came to the show and your decision to deliver that message.
I mean, it was such a weird remove for me because I was in London. I was working on a movie in London, and I got a call around 9 p.m. my time from our producer saying Pence is coming. So that's 2 o'clock. That's around 2 o'clock New York time. Pence is coming. We want to say something. I mean, that it actually really came from our producers. This is the week after the election, y'all.
Yeah.
So crazy.
So shit was just raw. Like everyone's emotions were raw, for or against. If you were for, you were like, "Wow, we won!" And if you were against, you were like, "Oh, what's gonna happen?" And so for him to go to the show a week after, the audience felt some kind of way, and the audience was booing him. I think we treated him with the utmost respect. I think our statement was really respectful.
It was.
And he even said so, and he stayed to listen. And that Sunday on, I think it was like Fox or CBS Sunday, I don't remember what show he was on. He said, "I love the show. That's what protesting is what America sounds like." I mean, he said all the presidential things.
Just don't kneel during a football game.
It was our president-elect. Well, that was later. It was our president-elect who totally mischaracterized the situation and said that we somehow created an atmosphere that was conducive. But that was not what we did. We really, if you watch the video, you watch our cast silencing the boos so we can say the statement that basically says, please represent all of us. It's the week after, and a lot of people are scared. Please represent all of us. And I don't think that's controversial. It shouldn't
Well,
be
it's only controversial if you're a racist and you're somehow taking offense to the fact that somebody's telling you to represent all of us.
Yeah, to take
because
offense
you
to
only
that is
represent-
really, I mean, that's, and that was 11 days after the election. So that's, that was a sign of things
Were
to
you
come.
bummed that you missed it? Were you kind of like, oh, why aren't I in the house tonight?
It was weird. I mean, it was weird because you wake up to the president's tweets. I mean, that's a weird feeling to wake up to because and he knows what he's doing. He's putting a target on your back, an online target for harassment and abuse. And I got my 2 weeks of death threats until people moved on to the next thing. And even this past weekend, I get my share of all of that. And that's frustrating because especially in a time of crisis, in times of hurricanes, when we're used to uniting. I remember in the day of September 11th, I didn't vote for George Bush, but I supported him as president. And that day, it was like a time to unite us. It was a time to say we're one country and we're going to come back. And so when you see the president tweeting at the victims of a natural disaster, saying we can't be there forever and they want everything done for themselves, when the opposite is true, when he's criticizing an elected official on the front lines of a disaster, it's just divisive. It's just unprecedented, and it's unprecedented. And so, I think people freaked out when I had words for him. It was on the cover of the Daily News.
But he told me he was going to hell or something.
Yeah, and I didn't send him there. I just said
get a VIP status when he gets there.
Yeah,
though.
and people know me, and they know I don't talk like that. That's not my Twitter feed is like pictures of my dog and like my son singing about trains and shit. And it's such a I try so hard to be the silver lining of the internet because Twitter can be such a toxic place. But I had no words for that. I had no words left for someone who attacks the victims of a disaster and says they want everything done for themselves. What else is there to say but I know where you're going after this.
Well, you're a writer. You're a writer. You couldn't write a bad guy. I've seen Lin at 2 consecutive wrestling shows. No bad guy wrestling character has ever been that bad where they would go to the victim and be like, and you. I mean, it's like the worst character you could ever write.
It's the worst heel turn you could do.
You could have it's incredible.
It is a straight up heel turn.
Can you amuse us by telling? I would like to picture a time because you're so smart and successful and now rich, all these wonderful things. Is there ever a time when your wife just gives you a look that with every part of her eye says, I know everyone thinks you're great, but shut the fuck up immediately? Does your wife
humility comes so quickly in the Miranda household. That's what keeps me humble. I mean, when I won this MacArthur Genius Grant, and literally every tweet, every text from people we knew being like, why did they put your name on your wife's thing? Because everyone who knows us knows I'm the fucking dum-dum of the relationship. I'm the dude who sprayed her deodorant on my neck instead of my cologne this morning because I hadn't had coffee yet. And my wife went to MIT for engineering and is now a lawyer, and she's like a scientist lawyer, and I'm over here trying to think of shit that rhymes with burr. You
did it so well.
Yeah, so it keeps. I had a day of maybe hey, honey, I'm a genius. And everyone's like, hey, genius, go pick up the dog shit.
Yo, and I just thank you for Moana, bro.
Oh, thank you.
Oh my God.
That is for my house and my daughter and anybody that has kids. I tried to show her Lion King. I'm keep it 1,000. I tried to show her Lion King, and she was like, "No, Moana."
Yeah.
She just wasn't.
It was her whole birthday theme.
It was her whole birthday thing.
Yeah, we had a Moana party for her birthday.
That's awesome.
By the way, Ibro dressed up as the father.
I was Maui.
Yes.
Oh my
Full
God.
costume. Full costume.
It was terrible, but my daughter loved it.
Show me the pictures.
It's actually pretty amazing.
That's incredible.
They had a little tattooed T-shirt that you could buy online, and I cut some grass and had long hair and the whole skit.
No, it was a joy. I mean, I was writing that the whole first year I was acting in Hamilton, and it sort of saved my life. With all of the hype and hoopla and how big your head could get with the success of that show, I had songs due. So I had to clear space and time to be all right, well, I got to get Maui off. I gotta get Moana off the island, or like I gotta write a song for this crab. That was the joy of it. It was like that really kept me humble because usually when I got in the Heights on, I really mourned. I was like, I've been writing the show for 9 years. Now what do I write? But I had so much work with Moana, and it was so much fun to write this young woman who gets to save the world. She gets to be so smart and so badass. So that was really fun.
But if you could have seen this party, it was really interesting. So at his daughter's party, it was the morning of Charlottesville. And so I'm like getting text messages about these horrible things going on. And watching Laura and my wife tear up because all these multi-ethnic children were all holding hands and singing Moana songs together. It was truly like, you're like, wow, this is so amazing. And they all see her and they see themselves, and it was awesome.
Don't they save you? I mean, I feel like my kid saves me every morning. Like I always have the choice. Like I could open Twitter or I could like play trains with my son. And if you play trains, you're gonna have a much better day.
Much better day.
You know what I mean? Like,
does he ever threaten you at the end and say like, "You low life piece of shit, I hope you fail"? Because that's what Twitter does. So
yeah, exactly.
Assuming your son never does that, that is better than Twitter.
No, my son had a great phase because he's sick of Moana because he listened to it while I was writing it in that whole first year of his life. And so, but there was a phase where every time he ran down a hill, he would go, "See the line where the sky meets the sea." Like he couldn't run without singing that. Like it was like that was just built into his running. It was, and that was the greatest.
I could do a whole interview with you just about Moana and what it means in our house and what it means to have a black daughter who actually has a movie that is revered around the world that she can see herself in. It's incredible.
Have you spoken to the president, real president,
Dwayne Johnson?
That's exactly. Have you spoken to President Obama at all since he left office or no?
I have actually, and it's it annoys me when people are like, "It's time for him to come back and fight." It's like, dude, he fought for 8 years. You didn't reelect the person who was going to continue his policies. Like, he can chill. He's earned every right to chill. And by the way, he's not chilling. Like, it's been amazing to see him team up with the ex-presidents. It's like the Saturday Night Live skit for real.
Yeah.
And work on aid relief and expand that to Puerto Rico when Puerto Rico was hit. But he's doing amazing things with his foundation, and I'm working with him a little bit on that in the months to come.
Lin-Manuel Miranda, congrats.
Pulitzer.
Genius at times.
Grammy, Oscar,
I don't care about none of that.
Tony.
I don't have an Oscar.
The elusive. Wait, what do you have, an Emmy and not a?
Yeah, I have an Emmy.
Oh, you have an Emmy. I have it backwards.
I have an Emmy.
The elusive
Grammy, and
Oscars.
Tony.
That's it. That's all we need for the PGOT.
The PGOT
Is the Oscar. All right, it's coming.
I just care about Moana, bro.
Yeah.
Moana.
Yeah, well,
Disney.
Moana got me to the dance.
Yeah,
I got to
but
go to those Oscars. I got to see that whole La La Moonlight. I was in the audience.
Oh, that for that moment? That was crazy.
I turned to my mom and said, "Mom, fix your face."
What was she doing?
Because she was like this.
Because it was so awkward.
It was just like, what's happening? I mean, as soon as I saw a dude with a headset rush up, I went, "Oh no!" And it was crazy. It was just really crazy.
And because we'd be utterly irresponsible interviewing someone who's important in media and entertainment without asking you, as someone who is a boss who creates huge moments and produces huge things, watching this whole Harvey Weinstein thing play out, how does it affect the way that you see your role in leadership and hiring people and things of that nature?
It doesn't affect the way I see my role because I'm not a fucking monster. I mean, it's been incredible to see the bravery of the people who've come forward and the cascading effect that's had on people piping. It's sort of I am Spartacus, sort of on all sides, and that's been amazing to see. I knew Harvey a little bit. He has the rights to the In the Heights film. I knew he was never going to win a nice guy competition anytime soon.
Just from limited interaction.
Just he's legendary for screaming at his assistants and screaming at people and screaming at reporters. Like that was always the version we saw in the press. We knew that was not a nice guy, but this is a whole. The stories that have come out are such a whole other level of monstrous. To think that you're going to a group meeting and then have the room empty out. I mean, that's the shit that's
bad.
That's terrifying. And so we're working on sort of extricating ourselves from any association with that company and trying to get In the Heights set up somewhere else. I've said this a million times because people ask me about the Hamilton movie all the time. I'm in no rush to see these things become movies. I just want them to be right. To me, the best stage adaptation was Chicago. That came 25 years after. So if In the Heights is in limbo for a little while until we get it set up somewhere else, that's fine. Like, it just needs to be done right.
And Chicago still crushed when it came back, won Oscars and made tons of money.
Yeah.
Like, it was fine.
Yeah, it was fine. So it'll be there when it's there, and so but it's I think it's a tipping point. I really think it's a tipping point in terms of if you are in a position of power, not to abuse that power.
Lin-Manuel Miranda, give it up for
Thank
him.
you, man.
Thanks.
And download the song so we can continue to work in Puerto Rico. The name of the song one more time.
Almost like praying.
There it is.